Welcome back to another episode of Bully Ball. Today, the draft just wrapped up, full 7 rounds. Niners made some good picks. A bunch of other teams made some good picks. We're going to go through and drop our thoughts and maybe give some grades as well for each pick and then the overall draft class. So, starting off, as most of you know, uh, with our first pick, number 31 overall, we picked up wide receiver from Florida, Ricky Pearsall. Joseph, go ahead and give your initial thoughts on the pick and how you're feeling about it now.
Yeah, so initially, was not happy with it at all, just based on value, position, it didn't look very good, but then when you put the whole class together, it looks better than I initially thought. I still can't give it higher than like a C at the moment. He could be a great player. Um, but if you think about it in this context, right? The last two receivers the 49ers drafted in the first, second round, right? Um, Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel, right? Look at what those two have produced for you. Debo Samuel put up an all pro season a couple years back, leading to his big contract. And then you had Brandon Ayuk. Was Brandon Ayuk an all pro this year? I don't believe so.
Yeah, no. Or I
No,
think he might
but
have been second team All Pro.
yeah, possibly. But even if he wasn't back to back 1,000 yard seasons, closer to 1,500 yards this year. Um, so, are you going to get that from this guy, on his rookie contract? I don't know if we could say that. Um, so still don't know about the value, but he is a guy that can win one on one. And we've said that all season long that the 49ers need another guy that can do that. Um, so right now it's a C. I hope he proves me wrong and it ends up an A, but we will see. What about you?
Yeah, I'd probably give it a C plus. I like the player, but I don't really like the value of the pick right there. I feel like we could have traded back to get him or even stuck with pick 63 and got him there. But I guess if you really want a player, you got to take him. You got to reach for him a little bit if you really want him. Um, just to give some stats on him, over his last few years in college. So he started out with ASU, and that was a big reason why the 49ers, I think, picked Ricky Pearsall as well, is because he had a connection with Herm Edwards. And John Lynch and Herm Edwards have a good camaraderie with each other. So I think John Lynch really listens to and relies on Edwards' thoughts on players. He did it with Ayuk, and then now you see it with Ricky Pearsall. So Ricky Pearsall started out with ASU, um, and then he transferred to Florida. In 2022, he led the team with 661 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. He had some rushing stats, and he also, I believe, punt returned as well over there. And then last year, 2023, he had 65 receptions for 965 yards, started all 12 games, had a couple rushing touchdowns, and, about 130 yards on punt returns. So, a very versatile guy. I think you'll probably see him in the slot, 3, 4 receiver sets. I think he's a little bit of a different receiver than Juwan Jennings because, Juwan Jennings is kind of that big body, like contested catch type receiver, where Ricky Pearsall, I feel like, is going to be one of those guys that's going to get open fast. He's going to flash. You can hit him. He's going to win with his routes. Same with Juwan Jennings. Just Juwan Jennings is a little bit more of a contested catch type of guy. But yeah, I would say I give Ricky Pearsall a C plus grade. Like I said, I like the player. It's just the value of that pick right there is a little, it's a little iffy. So that's
Yeah.
what I'll go with for Ricky Pearsall.
And I mean, if you look at his athletic profile, let me pull up his RAS. Super athletic guy, so the sky is the limit. He was on a team that wasn't great at throwing the ball,
Yeah.
so he could become better in the NFL than he was in college. So it looks like a 9.9 RAS for him, which ranks 32 out of 3,121 receivers from 1987 to now. 4.41 speed, 1.49 10-yard split, that's crazy fast. 4.05 shuttle and a 6.84 3-cone. So super elite. Even the explosion grade, 42-inch vert, that's insane. And 10.9 broad. So overall, elite. The things where he's lacking is he's only 6'1" and he's 189 pounds. So on the RAS score, that's what drops him, or else he would be probably top 10 in that metric.
Yeah. Elite, elite athlete for sure. So looking at our next pick, round 2, pick number 64 overall, the 49ers took Renardo Green, cornerback from Florida State. This one was a little bit, this pick was interesting because the 2 or 3 picks that went before him were a little bit unfortunate for the Niners, in my opinion. Roger Rosengarten went at, I believe, 62. So that was one pick before our original pick. That was somebody I wanted. I think that was somebody the Niners wanted too. I think they were pretty big on Rosengarten. I think we should have traded up a little bit to secure Rosengarten, if we really wanted him. But that was unfortunate to see him go like a pick before ours. And then we trade back with the Chiefs, and they take Kingsley Suamataia, the tackle from BYU. So that's 2 tackles at good values at the end of the second round that go literally right before our pick. But then that leads us into Renardo Green. So, Joe, go ahead and give your initial thoughts on Renardo Green.
Yeah, so I agree with what you said. Little unfortunate, would have liked the 49ers to trade up a couple spots, take Rosengarten, because like we said, we did not like Rosengarten at 31. In the second round, especially that late, great pick, A plus, immediate right tackle starter, in my opinion. Um, Kingsley Suamataia, I would have taken him, stayed there and taken him as well. I don't think he was an immediate starter though. He has the athleticism and the traits to be top tier at some point, but it wasn't immediate. So if they passed because of that, I guess I understand. Um, but Renardo Green is a guy that I mentioned on, I believe, not our last pod, but the pod before, about him being one of my guys at corner. So his RAS score is a 8.21, 5'11, closer to, is it 5'12 or is it 6 foot?
6
6
foot.
foot.
Yeah.
So closer to 6 foot. He's 5'11 and 7 whatever. And he's 188 pounds, 4.49 40, which, not great speed, but not terrible speed. Super explosive though. His explosion grade is great. 37.5-inch vert, 10-10 broad. Um, but the dude's a lockdown man corner. He played a lot of the best receivers in college football. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU, both of them. And then even Ricky Pearsall, our first round pick, and he pretty much locked everybody up. True man corner. I think I could possibly see him starting outside, opposite of Charvarius Ward this year. I would play him outside, but yeah, I like the pick. Like you said, a little unfortunate, but I would give this one probably a B plus, maybe an A minus. I feel like we have some players in there, but I do think I see an immediate starter with him. So I think I'll go A minus with this pick.
Yeah, you know, especially with Nick Sorensen taking over as D coordinator, and then that other coach that we got from the Chargers. What was his name? I'm blanking on it right now.
Brandon Staley.
Brandon Staley. I think that was a big thing. I assume the Niners are anticipating, a change in how the defense looks this year, maybe a lot more man coverage. And I think that's where Renardo Green's going to succeed, is playing man coverage, that press man. Even Eric Crocker, who's a great evaluator of corners, said if the Niners play him in man coverage, he's going to eat. If you play him in off coverage, some zone coverage, that transition might be a little bit tough at first. So if we play him in the man coverage, like Joseph said, I think he can start right away opposite of Mooney Ward, which allows you to throw Demo Lenore inside. And that would be fantastic. A couple of his last seasons in college, 2021, real quick, he did play in 9 games with 2 starts at safety, so he does have that versatility, which you'd like to see. Honorable mention, all ACC in 2022. Started 12 games there, had 58 tackles, 3 TFLs, 5 pass breakups. 2023, he was second team all ACC, led the team with 13 PBUs, started 13 games at corner, 43 tackles, 2 TFLs, half sack, and a pick. And like Joseph said, he played against some of the top receivers in the draft this year and locked them down. I believe against Malik Neighbors, they played like week 1, and he helped only give up 64 yards or something like that. So that's pretty outstanding. He's a lockdown man corner that can start for you instantly. And another thing, a lot of these players that the Niners picked are 4-year senior, 5-year senior, 6-year senior. They're all older guys in the 23, 24-year-old range. So they're all at like the peak of their physical abilities, or at least close to it. Mentally, they have a lot of experience. They've seen a lot of snaps in college, so they've seen a lot of different looks. And I think that's going to go a long way in helping a lot of these guys have an impact right away in some ability. But yeah, out on this one, just because I think the players that went before, I would probably give him a B, give him a solid B grade right there for Renardo Green. So that is our second overall, or our second round pick. Going on to the third round here, 86th overall pick. The Niners selected Dominic Puny, offensive lineman from Kansas. Joseph and I spoke about him a little bit on our last podcast before the draft started. And, this is a guy who has 5 position versatility on the O-line. He can play tackle spots, guard, center. At the Senior Bowl, they were having him take center snaps. They were having him take some guard snaps. And then during the regular season for college football, he was obviously playing tackle. So, Joseph, go ahead and give your initial thoughts on Dominic Puny.
Yeah, so he was on my team of our guys in our last video. His RAS score 8.16, which ranks 292nd out of 1,583 offensive guards. So, pretty good. 33.375-inch arm. So he doesn't meet that 34-inch arm tackle threshold, but he's not too far off. What he does have is good size, 6'5", 303. He could add a little bit of weight, but 26 bench reps. The thing is, he had a poor run. So his run was a 5.35 40, 1.85 10-yard split. So that's, not very good. But then you look at his explosion grade and it's great. 30-inch vert, 8'11 broad. And then his agility grade is elite. So you have a 4.4 shuttle, which that's almost a 10 on the grading scale, and then a 7.47 3-cone, which is almost a 9.5. So the dude is an elite mover in short area. His short area quickness, pulling and things like that, he's going to be great at. And, you just watch some clips of him, and this dude can move people and he can get out on the move. So I like this pick a lot as well. I thought good value in the third round. It'll be interesting to see if he can win that right guard spot this year. Um, and then also what the long term plan with him is he going to be a guard or the center? But the dude killed it at the Senior Bowl. I would give this one also an A minus.
Yeah, great pick. So looking over some stats here. 2020. So he started 4 years at Central Missouri, which was an FCS school. And then he transferred to Kansas for the last 2 years. And 2022 is an honorable mention, all Big 12, started all 13 games at left guard. And then 2023, he was finalist for the Polynesian College Football Player of the Year, first team all Big 12, started at left tackle. Yeah, like Joseph said, this dude's an elite mover in the short space. He had a poor 40-yard dash, but a lot of people are even talking about like not making offensive linemen run the 40-yard dash because it's almost irrelevant. You know what I mean? When is an offensive lineman going to run 40 yards downfield? Realistically, you know what I mean, at full speed. So a little bit unrealistic on that part, but that short shuttle that he ran was elite, literally an elite number. There's a tweet here, and it was a stat about the short shuttle and people who ran offensive linemen who ran a certain distance or a certain time under 4.4 seconds. So this is from Josh Norris. He says, since 2010, just 28 offensive linemen recorded a 4.47 short shuttle or better at the NFL Combine. 24 of those guys were drafted, and those 24 went on to start 84% of their NFL games. And our guy, Dominic Puny, was one of them, as well as another guy the 49ers selected later on that we'll talk about a little bit. So, just looking at that stat alone, Dominic Puny is going to have some elite upside, and I know his college football coach said that Dominic Puny is going to need a little bit of adjustment from being like a real people mover, like Mauler type guy, because that's not what they asked of their O lineman at Kansas. They ran like a triple option. So it was just kind of get your hands on somebody, kind of just hold them there. You know what I mean? So that's going to have a little bit of an adjustment period. But I think you get him in there with Chris Foerster, one of the better offense lineman coach in the NFL. And I think they can work with him. And maybe by midseason, he's starting at right guard. And then I think John Lynch said too, he can play tackle for you in a pinch if needed. So that's great versatility right there. Just having that value for yourself as a person is going to go a long way in you making that 53-man roster because you can play in multiple positions. So that's definitely in Dominic Puny's favor. I would give it, I'll give it a A minus. Great pick. I think he's going to have an instant impact year one. Might not be right away, but I think it will come in due time. So I'll give it a A minus on that one.
And then let me throw out Emery Hunt. We have the draft guide for those of you that are new here. I'll give out his positional ranking for these guys as well, just because he usually goes a little bit off of the consensus, and so he might have person rated higher, lower, just to give another take on the person. So Ricky Pearsall, he has him rated as his number 6 flanker receiver. For context, above him, he has Troy Franklin, Marvin Harrison Jr., Keon Coleman, Malik Neighbors, and then Ricky Pearsall. And then we have Renardo Green. He has Renardo Green as his number 3 boundary cornerback. The only ones above him are Quinyon Mitchell, who was a first-round pick, and Terrion Arnold, who was a first-round pick. So that's about what I thought, with his coverage ability. That's a great pick at the end of the second round. And then let's look at Dominic Puny. Dom Puny, he has as his number 10 guard. So a little lower on him, it seems. But I think you get more value with Dom Puny just in the versatility. He's not just a guard. He can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely. Dom Puny was one of those guys too that some people are either higher than consensus or like way lower than consensus on him. It didn't seem like there's too much fluidity on his rankings as a guard. So that's going to be an interesting one to see how it plays out. But moving on to the round 4 selection for the 49ers. The 49ers at pick number 124 take Malik Mustafa, who's a safety out of Wake Forest. To give you some quick stats on him before Joseph gives his reaction about the pick. Let's see here. So the last 2 years, 2022, he started 10 games. He had 58 tackles, 8 TFLs, 3.5 sacks, 3 PBUs, 2 forced fumbles. And then he missed the final 3 regular season games due to injury. In 2023, this last year, he was second team All ACC, started all 12 games, 80 tackles, 5 TFLs, an interception, 2 PBUs. And he stands at, let's see, 5'10, 209. So very stocky. I saw somebody describe him as like a ball of muscle. Another guy that's a senior, I think he's a 5th-year senior. So, pretty mature guy, older guy. Joseph, go ahead and give your thoughts on Malik Mustafa.
Yeah. So first, his RAS score 9.38, so elite. 68 out of 1,082 free safeties. So elite athletic testing. 22 bench reps as well. So, like you said, ball of muscle. 4.54 40, which isn't great, but his 20-yard split is in the elite range at a 2.57. So, running deep downfield shouldn't be an issue for him. And then he didn't do agility testing, but he did do the explosion testing. 41.5-inch vert, insane. That's almost a 10. And then a 10.6 broad, which is also on the elite level. So I did not watch many safeties in this class. I think all I watched on this dude was, like a highlight video, early in the draft process season. And what I could see from that is the dude hits. He's not scared to hit. He runs the lane and makes tackles. He's a sure tackler. And from what I saw people saying about him is this dude is probably the best tackling safety in this class. And if you guys remember in the playoffs, I was complaining a lot about Tashawn Gibson missing tackles on the back end. So I don't know if he starts, it would have to be Huff isn't ready to go. Or, Jair Brown, he beats him out or something like that. Or maybe they have the star position and they have 3 safeties on the field. I don't know. I don't know if he makes an impact this year, but the athletic traits and everything, he'll probably end up being a starter for you at some point. I will give this one probably a B minus because there were players that I did want more at that spot.
Yeah, definitely. I think he gives you a impact right away, obviously on special teams. I think that's where he'll start out as a special teams player. And I think Huff's availability to start the year is really going to determine how much playing time he sees because I think that's more of the position that he's going to play, down in the box, kind of blitzing, helping in run support because, I've seen a bunch of stuff saying that he was probably the best run defending safety in the draft. So him playing in that box, kind of being that third linebacker, third, fourth linebacker, you know what I mean, depending on what the package looks like, I think is going to be huge. And like I said, I think Huff's availability is really going to determine how much we're going to see of Mustafa on the field. But yeah, I think I'll give this one, I'll probably give it a B. I think, like Joseph said, there are some better players on the board at this point. But you know, if Hufanga's knees really messed up and he's not even able to play at all for the first 4 games, comes out on the pup or whatever, then I think this pick's going to look a lot better in the long run. But that we'll have to wait and see. So for now, I'll give it a B.
And then Emery Hunt. So I also didn't know he played at Richmond in 2020. So he was an FCS guy that went up. But the main thing that Emery said is he's chaos on wheels, one of the more explosive defenders in the class at the position. He has him ranked as his number 5 strong safety. So pretty high, and for the number 5 valued strong safety on his board to get him in the 4th round, you would have to say that is pretty good value.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So moving on to the next pick, another 4th round pick. The 49ers made, I believe it was 3 4th round selections. Yep. So moving on to the next one, should be to nobody's surprise here. You know, it was bound to happen. It happens every single draft. So it should surprise nobody. The 49ers at pick 129 select Isaac Guerendo, running back out of Louisville. You know, this guy is a crazy athlete. His athletic profile is insane. He's like 6 foot 220 and just has ridiculous speed. I'll let Joe go over the RAS score a little bit. But you know, he's kind of similar to Eli Mitchell. Well, that's what I was thinking at first. But Eli Mitchell was like 5'10", 200 pounds and ran like a 4.32. Isaac Guerendo's 6 foot, 220 pounds and ran like a 4.33. So that is just insane from an athletic profile standpoint. But I'll let Joe go ahead and dive into his RAS and give his initial thoughts on Isaac Guerendo.
Yeah, so his RAS is a 9.9. He is ranked 20th out of 1,903 running backs. And if you remove his bench press from the RAS, he then jumps up to number 2. So pretty insane. I don't know who number 1 is, but his bench press was 17 reps, and that's in the red, which is kind of surprising for a running back. But anyways, like you said, 4.33, 40-yard dash. And all of his splits, his 20-yard and his 10-yard are all elite. You know, 10-yard 1.54, vertical of 41.5 inches. That's insane. That's almost a 10. A 10.9 broad. And then his agility grades are great as well. 4.15 shuttle and is at 6.94 3-cone. So the dude is crazy explosive. And one thing I read earlier is there are only 2 players ever to weigh over 220 pounds, because he weighs 221, to run a 4.3. I believe it was below a 4.35 or something like that. And that is Isaac Guerendo and DK Metcalf. So pretty insane. But yeah, this dude, he can do pretty much everything. You know, I was reading that he's a pretty good pass blocker, so he could get by with that. He can catch the ball. I believe going into college, he was a receiver, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so he has that receiving ability, and this dude just has that game-changing speed. He started his career, I believe it was at Wisconsin, before transferring to Louisville. And he wasn't even the starter at Louisville. But this dude could be a true game-changing back. I just do not know how many touches he's going to get, because Kyle Shanahan will not give touches to anybody. You know, and we've said it for so long now that he rides McCaffrey way too hard, where you'll only see another back on the field for what, like 3-4 snaps. So this is a dude you got to get on the field. But I don't know if we're going to see him on the field this year.
Your grade?
Uh, we don't like taking running backs, but I'll give this one a B because you're getting a true elite athlete at running back with this pick. And there was a run on running backs. I texted Alex and I said, we're going to take, I saw we traded up. I was like, we're taking a running back.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits into the running back room because obviously you have CMC, obviously, but then you also have Eli Mitchell, you have JP Mason, and then now you have him, who I think obviously are going to be your 4 running backs going into the year on the 53 man. Eli Mitchell, though, is always hurt. Anytime he touches the ball, he's getting hurt every game, seems like. So, he could take that role. JP Mason, though, is extremely underrated in my opinion, but kind of a different style of back, more of like a bruiser, punisher type back. To where Isaac Guerendo can be that change of pace back like that you need, kind of like that Matt Breida role early on in Shanahan's tenure. That guy that can just take any run 75 yards to the house, 80 yards to the house. I think we're going to see Isaac Guerendo's true value, though, come on special teams because, he played 5 years at Wisconsin and didn't play much at all, didn't have more than 200 rushing yards in a season at his 5 years over there. So 2022 was his last year at Wisconsin. He was honorable mention All Big Ten Conference kick returner. So that's huge right there. He played in 12 games as a reserve. So he did have, so that is last year, he had 385 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns, 150 receiving yards with a touchdown, and then 454 kick return yards for an average of 23.9 yards per kick return, which is huge. That's great. You know what I mean? And I think that's going to go a long way with how this new kickoff is formatted to where you're going to see a lot more kickoff returns. So I think Isaac Guerendo, if you just let him catch it, give him some space to open it up, hit that 4.33 speed down the field, I think that's going to be huge. And I think we're going to see a lot of value from that perspective just right away. 2023 played in all 14 games with 1 start. Like Joseph said, he wasn't even a starter at Louisville, but he had 810 rushing yards, 11 rushing touchdowns, 234 receiving yards, and then he had 211 kick return yards for an average of 19.2 yards per kick return. So, obviously an elite athlete. And like I said, I think we're going to see a lot of value on kickoff return from him. And a lot of the players that the Niners selected have return ability, whether it's punt return or kick return. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins out those battles. And also Isaac Guerendo, like I said, another 6-year senior. So a lot of the guys that the Niners are selecting are older players that are ready to go right now.
And
For the grade, I'll go ahead and give it a B minus just because we don't really know how he's going to fit in right away. And obviously it wasn't the biggest need, especially with who we have in front of him. So I'll give it a C plus actually. Bump it down a little bit. I'll give it a C plus.
So for 49ers fans, for comparison's sake, if you remember Raheem Mostert, who was our one cut back that was dynamic, Raheem Mostert ran a 4.38 Isaac Guerendo 4.33. Isaac Guerendo's vert jump better than Raheem Mostert's. Raheem Mostert's was a 40, and I believe I said it was a 41.5 for Guerendo. And then Raheem Mostert 5'10, 195. So imagine adding about 25 pounds onto Raheem Mostert, and that's the style of player you're getting. And then Emory Hunt has Isaac Guerendo as his number 4 running back in the class. So he has that, getting that in the 4th round. Obviously running back values aren't great and they usually go later, but there was a ton of running backs going before him. So I think the value was about right with that one.
Yeah, and like I said, I compared him to Elijah Mitchell, but he's about 2 inches taller and about 20 pounds heavier and ran 0.01 seconds slower than Eli Mitchell. So that just goes to show the athlete that he is. Moving on to the 49ers' last selection in the 4th round was wide receiver out of Arizona, Jacob Cowing. This guy's extremely durable. He's a smaller guy, but I believe I saw he played in like 57 games and had a catch in every single game, which is pretty insane for a guy of his size. Um, Joseph, go ahead and give your initial thoughts and grade on Jacob Cowing.
Yeah, so I was a bit confused with this one at first, right? Because, how does this guy fit onto the roster? You have Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, you draft Ricky Pearsall, you still have Jawan Jennings, and then I believe you have Ronnie Bell, who supposedly the 49ers love, and we thought he might get a bigger role this year. Danny Gray, he's on the roster. That's all I could say about that. I believe you have Chris Conley as well. We re-signed Chris Conley, correct? So,
Yeah, and Tay
you
Martin.
know, oh, and Tay Martin. So it's a crowded room, but he does bring and Trent Taylor. So we have like 12 wide receivers on the roster right now. But he does bring that ability that I spoke about pre-draft, where I said, the 49ers, I think I said this for Malik Washington when I said we should get him, about how the 49ers love those small receivers when Shanahan first joined the team. He had Trent Taylor and all those other small guys that could just get open in short area. Well, I think that's probably what he's trying to go with Jacob Cowing. The RAS is low. It's a 6.28, which is 1,266 out of 3,402. And obviously, one major factor is his height. He's 5'8", and that's a 0.7 on the RAS. And then he weighs 168. That's a 0.5 on the RAS. So that's just going to tank him down. He's not very explosive, 36-inch vert. His agilities are just okay. He had a poor shuttle 4.32, which is in the red, but his speed is elite. 4.38 40, 1.52 10-yard split. So this guy can get down the field. He brings elite speed, and he's very crafty with his route running, even though he has a poor agility grade. So I like the player. Don't know where he fits on the roster. I believe he's a punt returner as well, correct? Pretty good punt returner. Um, but once again, there was people that I liked more at this spot. This one, I got to give a C minus. Think he could be a good player for the team. I just don't see how he's gonna get on the field besides on special teams.
Wow, pretty harsh. um, this is a guy that I know a lot of 49ers social media, content creators and just fans of the team. A lot of people liked Jacob Cowing out of Arizona. To give you some stats on him. So once again, this is another fifth-year senior. So following the trends, obviously. His first 3 years, he played at UTEP. And then his last 2 years at Arizona. 2022, he was honorable mention All Pac-12, led the team with 85 receptions for 1,034 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then last year, he was once again all honorable mention All Pac-12, led the team with a school record 13 receiving touchdowns, tied for the team lead with 90 receptions for 848 yards, so a little step back there. Played in all 13 games, and then, like I said, caught at least one pass in his final 57 games. So that was another thing following a trend with the Niners is they're drafting for durability. The 49ers early on in Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch regime dealt with a lot of injuries. So they're obviously looking to get away from that. Yeah, I think this guy, he's going to win in the short area, close to the red zone, on some quick routes, some quick slants, maybe some screens, things like that. Pretty fast, 4.38, like Joseph said. It is going to be interesting to see how he does fit in to the team, especially with all the receivers that we have. I think I don't see anything on here about any special teams usage as far as punt or kickoff return. So that's a improve as a route runner and display some punt return talent. So yeah, so I don't think he has much punt return experience in college. So that's interesting. Yeah, I just don't know where he fits in. But he does seem like one of those guys that you just want to get him the ball in space and then just let him do his work there. That's a huge thing with the Niners receivers. I'll go ahead and give it a C value just because, like Joseph said, we don't know where he's going to fit in at all on the team because we're already loaded at receiver. So I'll go ahead and give it a C for Jacob Cowing.
Yeah, and don't get it wrong. Like the player, just don't know where he's going to fit because where are you going to put him in 3 receiver sets? Are you taking 3rd and 1 out for him on 3rd down? I don't know. But
Or are you going to
Emory
start
Hunt,
him? Even are you going to start him over Ricky Pearsall if Jawan's out? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
where does he go? It's going to be interesting.
So Emory Hunt, very high on Jacob Cowing, his number 4 slot receiver. So very high on Jacob Cowing. The ones above him are Lad McConkey, Malachi Corley, and Jaquan Jackson. So he's very high on Jacob Cowing.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on. So that, like I said, that was the third of 3 selections in the 4th round. Moving on to, so we traded our 2, I believe it was both of our 5th round picks, right? Or was it a 5th and 6th that we traded to get Isaac Guerendo? One of those. So we
I
didn't have a
think it
5th
was a
round
5th
pick.
and 6 or 2 fifths, something like
Yeah.
that.
So we didn't have a 5th round pick this year, which is unfortunate because that's been the money spot for the 49ers in the last drafts. George Kittle, Dre Greenlaw, Hufanga, just to name a few of them that have come in the 5th round. So you move on to the 6th round, pick number 215. The 49ers selected offensive lineman Jarrett Kingston from USC. This guy played 4 years at Washington State and then transferred to USC his last year. So another guy, 5th-year senior, following the trend. This guy's a great athlete. He fits into, once again, that stat that I shared about Dominic Puny of that short shuttle. He also ran like a 4. He was right on the line of that one, but he did get it. So that's a stat that's on his side. Looking at some quick film of him, the dude's a mauler. The dude is pancaking people left and right, both at Washington State and at USC. The only thing is he has extremely short arms, like 7th percentile arms. So that's going to be an issue. I think I could see him fitting in at center, being a center possibly behind Jake Brendel, maybe throw him to the practice squad for the year and then see if he can take over once Jake Brendel eventually, gets out of there. Let's see here. So I'll let Joseph go over his athletic ability. Some quick stats though on him. So he was actually projected to be a priority free agent, but we took him a little bit early. So he, like I said, Washington State for 4 years, then transferred to USC. While at Washington State, he appeared in 37 games with 26 starts. And then in 2023 at USC, he appeared in 12 games and recorded 1 fumble recovery. It's a stupid stat to throw in about an offensive lineman. But I believe he played right guard and right tackle, so he has that guard tackle versatility. But like I said, I would anticipate him hopefully playing center. He's definitely not playing tackle, but hopefully center. I'll give my grade real quick on him. He has that good athletic score, short arms. We needed some help on the interior. So I'll go ahead and give it a C+ grade. No, I'll give it a B-. I'll go B- for Kingston. Go ahead and give your thoughts on him.
Yeah, so RAS score 9.92. Elite athlete, ranks 13th out of 1,583 offensive guards. So the athleticism is crazy. The thing where he has a knock is his weight, 306. So he needs to add a little bit of weight. But elite explosion grade, elite speed grade, and elite agility grade with, like you said, the shuttle right on the dot of 447. Yeah, didn't know much about him, but that late in the draft, you take a shot on a dude that's athletic as hell. Hopefully he can sit a year or two and develop and become a starter for you. So I like the upside shot. I'll give that one a B-. And on Emory Hunt's draft guide, he has him ranked as the number 34 guard. So a lot lower on him. But as you said, he was projected to go undrafted. You're betting on the traits with this guy.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of when you get to these last few rounds, 5, 6, 7 rounds, you're really drafting for traits rather than productivity, obviously, because you're so deep in the draft. So that's at
And
least good that he had that athletic ability.
and in the past couple years where we've said the 49ers have drafted bad, they were drafting below average athletes
Yeah.
most of the time. So you like them taking shots on a lot of these guys being very, very good and very athletic.
Yeah. Moving on to the 49ers' last selection in the 2024 draft. Round 7, pick 251. The 49ers selected Tatum Bethune out of a linebacker out of Florida State. Some quick stats from 2022 to 2023 at Florida State. Bethune played in 24 games and recorded 142 total tackles, 12.5 tackles for loss, a sack, interception, 7 passes defended, and 1 fumble recovery. So fill the stat sheet a little bit. I honestly don't know too much about him. He's a senior. Joseph said that he was a below average athlete. He was projected in the round 7 to priority free agent. So Joseph, if you have any thoughts or I would grade wise, I would just incomplete. I don't know really anything about him, so I don't want to give a grade because I'm not too sure. But go ahead and give your thoughts on him.
Yeah, so like I had said in our previous videos, if you get someone on the Florida State defense, they're probably a good player because that defense was elite. Tatum Bethune's RAS score is a 4.10. So he's short, 5'11. He weighs 229 pounds, so he's light for a linebacker. 16 bench reps, which is low. He ran a 4.75 40, which is very slow. His 3-cone was good, but everything else is in the red. 30-inch vert, so he's not a very good athlete at all. But from what I was reading, he is very instinctive, supposedly. And I could read what Emory Hunt wrote about him. Quick twitched backer who has good short area burst, makes him a solid sideline to sideline player. Very good run and chase skills, solid hands and coverage, takes advantage of opportunity to make plays on the ball. Great open field wrap up tackler, won't miss any opportunities to bring down the ball carrier. Has the type of acceleration to close off rushing lanes going to the outside, and could be a very good blitzer as a pro. He said he needs to be more decisive versus the downhill run game, and he has to see it first before trusting it right now, which makes his job a little harder. And then did you say his stats?
Yeah,
You did
over
say
his
his
last 2
stats.
years, yeah.
and he was actually a transfer from UCF to Florida State. And he put up good stats there as well. 3 interceptions over there. He has him ranked as his number 10 outside linebacker. Well, it says outside linebacker / weak side linebacker. So for the 7th round, can't really complain with that. We saw the 2 linebackers the 49ers took last year, and they didn't do much. So he could come in and compete for a backup job. I'll give it a C, just based off what I know at the moment with them.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting to see what the Niners do at linebacker with Dre Greenlaw being out for, maybe half the season or more. Because obviously you have Fred Warner holding it down at Mike. And then you signed Devondre Campbell. And then looking at your other linebacker spots, like we said, you have D Winters. Do we bring back Flanagan Fowles?
I believe we did.
Flanagan Fowles, is there. He's been on the team for a while. Jalen Graham was another rookie last year. This guy, so it's going to be interesting to see, who steps up to take that third linebacker spot. Overall, for the draft class, I'm going to give it a. I'm going between a B and a B minus. But I'll probably give it, I don't know. I'm like right between. I'll give it a grade between the B and B minus, somewhere between those two. I think you got a lot of guys that can provide an impact within the first year. The first 4 or 5 guys can provide a pretty decent impact within their first year. I think there was some better players left on the table at each position, at each draft position. So yeah, I'll give it, somewhere between a B and a B minus overall for the draft class for me.
Yeah. For me, I will give it between a B minus and a C plus. The one position that you really needed to upgrade was your offensive line, and you did not get an immediate starter. You got maybe a guy that could start, not an immediate starter. So you got a lot of weapons for Brock, but what was the big thing with Brock last year? He was under pressure all the time. The only way he could be better is if the line was better. So, I mean, yes, there's a year of continuity with them, but I would have loved at least one where you're like, yep, that person immediately is going to start and improve the line. Didn't get that. But I do like the draft class, and I do have the 49ers undrafted class here, and I'll name them. You could say if you know them, and I could give Emery's grade or for them or whatever. So we got, and for those of you that don't know, Frank Gore Jr. did not sign with the 49ers. He went to the Bills. Gabriel Murphy, another guy we wanted, went to the Vikings. And there was a couple other people that we wanted that we didn't get. But we had 7 available spots, and we have 7 signed at the moment. So if we sign more, somebody has to get cut.
If you
First
guys,
one, 10.
real quick, if you guys weren't following the draft, Brandon Rice, Jerry Rice's son, went to the Chargers. Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's brother, went to the Commanders. So we did get one legacy player, though, that Joseph will
Yes.
talk about a little bit. But
Yeah.
the bigger name legacy players did not sign or get drafted by the 49ers.
Yeah. So first
all
one
you
we
old
got
heads, unfortunately.
is Tanner Mordecai, quarterback from Wisconsin. He's played everywhere. This dude was at Wisconsin this past year. He was at SMU before that, and he was at Oklahoma before that. Emory has him as his number 28 quarterback. He's very athletic. He has a high RAS score. I don't have it up, but he is a very athletic quarterback. So that's first guy. Your second guy is Probably going to be a fan favorite in the preseason. It's Cody Schrader, running back from Missouri. And that Missouri team was really good this year. But this dude played at Truman State, which I don't know if that's a D2 or whatever it is, but I believe he was an All-American. Yeah, he was the co-offensive player of the year, Burlsworth Trophy winner, first team All-American at that school, transfers up, walks on to an SEC school, Missouri, and then leads the SEC in rushing yards. So crazy story. Um, he was at the Senior Bowl, and this past year he put up, these past 2 years at Missouri, he put up 2,372 yards rushing, 23 touchdowns, 41 receptions for 328 yards. So good receiving ability. Um, and then at Truman State, he put up 39 touchdowns, 60 receptions for 500 yards. So he brings some receiving ability. And this dude is a downhill bruiser back like JP Mason. Like he wants to hit. He's 5'8", 207 pounds, so not the biggest guy, but if you watch some tape, this dude is a bruiser. And he's Emory Hunt's 39th ranked running back. Do you know about him?
Yeah, I mean, just a super cool story, being a walk-on and then leading the SEC in rushing. Like his last year, like Joseph said, he was a first team AP All-American, first team All SEC. School broke the school record for rushing yards. So just super cool to see. Great story. Probably doesn't make the team, or at least the 53 of how loaded our running back room is already. 4.61 40-yard dash. But just extremely cool to at least give him a chance, give him a shot to compete. And yeah, pretty cool signing there.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So now I'm going to give you guys your legacy pick. Tariq Owens, Terrell Owens' son, who was at the 49ers local pro day, signs with the team. 6'2", 200 pounds. If you could look up his RAS or his 40, because I don't have that. I don't know if he did it at a pro day or not. But I think you guys will like this. Emory Hunt says has excellent nuance as a route runner, understands both pacing and spacing, and is always finding open grass. Very good acceleration and burst into his route. Light on his feet as a runner. Will be able to pick up yards after the catch as he has giddy up in his step. Um, and then he says he needs to work on his hands. His catching technique isn't great, which is kind of surprising. Um, but his stats: 1 year at Missouri State, 46 receptions, 765 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Emory Hunt has him ranked as his 14th flanker receiver.
Yeah, cool legacy pick. Another guy that's coming into another extremely stacked room, so the odds are definitely against him to make the team. It's funny that you say like he struggled with catching the ball or whatnot, because his dad, you remember, had brick hands at first too, obviously before he became a Hall of Famer, but his dad was struggling to catch the ball as
Yeah.
well. But his 40 time was a 4.54. So, decent speed, not terrible. Um, yeah, cool legacy. It'll be crazy to see another Owens wearing a 49ers jersey. But like I said, any of these undrafted guys or late round guys, the odds are going to be up against them to make the team. But still, nonetheless, another cool story, another cool thing to see for all the old heads that watch the Niners, especially like our dad. So, yeah.
Yep. So next we have Josh Peterson, tight end from ULM. His dad is actually Doug Peterson, the head coach for the Jaguars. Um, I don't have anything other than that about him. So, and he's not on Emory Hunt's list that has a ton of people. So, I don't have any stats or anything about this tight end.
Let me see real quick. I think I remember seeing some stuff about him just from, said his name was Josh Peterson?
Yeah.
Josh Peterson.
Or actually, that is incorrect. That is wrong. It might be somebody else. So take him off the list for now. But we'll move on to the next one. I have Jimmy Gilbert. I don't know where he is from. Jimmy Gilbert. Let's see. And I'm just getting these off Twitter when people post, so I know about as much as you guys with these players.
So he's a linebacker from Colorado.
Yes.
I believe. I'm trying to see if there's anything really about him. I'm not seeing too much though as well.
So let's see. Someone asked Emory Hunt about him, and he said he graded out as one of my top 5 outside linebackers. Excellent fit. I don't see him here on the draft guide, but supposedly Emory Hunt really likes him.
Interesting. Yeah. Go ahead and go on to the next one.
Yeah. So the next one we have is Evan Anderson, who started getting a lot of buzz towards the draft as it was coming up. He's a nose tackle, and supposedly he's one of the best run stuffers in the class. 6 foot, 319 pounds, from Florida Atlantic. Emory says very active with his hands. They are the lifeblood of how he gets things done at the line of scrimmage. Gets a good jolt off the snap and stays locked out with the offensive lineman. Once he sees where the ball is going, able to violently throw off the block and pursue the ball. Natural leverage helps him get inside position on down blocks. Not an overly explosive athlete, lacks suddenness and twitch to be a constant pressure player. And if he's beat to the punch by an offensive lineman off the ball, he doesn't have the length to regain control of positioning. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl this year, second team All-Conference USA, and his career stats: 145 tackles, 20 tackle for loss, 7 sacks, 2 block kicks, 2 PBUs, and 3 fumble recoveries. And he is Emory Hunt's 8th rated nose tackle.
Yeah, this guy was going crazy when he got signed by the Niners. He jumped in a pool and stuff. So good to see, good to see him happy that, he's picked up.
All right. So I do have the last one that I messed up now. The guy that I said was from a couple years ago, but it came up because I was looking up the undrafted players. The last one the 49ers signed is a tight end. It's Mason Pline from Furman. So this guy started getting a lot of buzz as the draft was coming up. If you could look up his RAS for me. He's 6'6", 255 pounds, and he was a basketball player that started playing football in college. And Emory Hunt says he's coming off a strong all-star game circuit, shows good blocking technique and different type of blocks he has to execute. As a receiver, he's essentially a basketball player out there, able to post up using his frame over the middle of the field and play above the rim inside the red zone. Then he says his areas of improvement: speed is just about average. And as a route runner, his pad level gets a little too high. And let's see. So he played basketball at Ferris State from 2019 to 2023. And then he transferred to Furman and played football for 1 year. 32 receptions, 287 yards, 4 touchdowns. attended the Hula Bowl and East West Shrine Bowl, and he is Emory Hunt's 8th rated inline tight end.
Yeah, I mean that's good value, I guess. Obviously, I don't know too much about him. I couldn't find anything from an athletic standpoint. You did miss one guy though, Drake Nugent,
Oh
center
yeah.
from Michigan, was another guy that the Niners signed as undrafted free agent. Let's see, let's look at some of his stats and everything. Another senior. He ran a 5.23 40-yard dash, 4.5 short shuttle, so he misses that 4.47 cutoff. He played 4 years at Stanford before transferring over to Michigan. 2021 at Stanford, he was honorable mention All Pac-12, started all 12 games at center. 2022, honorable mention All Pac-12, started all 12 games at center, was the team captain. And then 2023, he was a finalist for the Remington Trophy, the nation's top center. First team All Big Ten Conference, and then started all 15 games. They have him ranked or projected as a priority free agent. Let's see, a little background on him. Nugent comes from NFL bloodlines. His father played for the Colts and Browns. They said he's stout and powerful through his upper body, but lacks the size, length, and leverage many teams will be looking for. Well versed as a technician, but might see his success decrease away from home base. Does well at protecting his gaps in pass protection and battles back against bull rushers, but doesn't have the foot quickness to survive on an island if isolated against an athletic rusher. Pretty much saying that he's a low ceiling too. So, another guy to come and fight for a spot.
Yeah, and he's Emory Hunt's 10th ranked center, so not bad getting him undrafted. Played on a championship winning team. We'll see what he could do. And then the final guy that just came in, Bryson Mays. He's an offensive lineman from Southern Miss, 6'3", 293. So he's pretty light. He's played center, guard, and tackle throughout his career. And he played at West Virginia for 3 years before transferring to Southern Miss. He's Emory Hunt's 40th ranked center.
Yeah. There was an interesting, quote from Kyle Shanahan after they recapped the draft. They asked him if Cam Latu was going to be the tight end too going into the year. And Kyle Shanahan said no, that we look at everybody, but we would at least like to see him practice. So obviously Cam Latu hasn't even practiced. I would say that's probably one of the weakest spots on the roster right now is tight end, because after Kittle, who do you have? Cam Latu didn't even practice last year, nonetheless playing a game. Braden Willis didn't do much at all. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if he had a reception. I don't even think he's that good of a blocker either. Charlie Warner's gone. Ross Dwelley hasn't done anything for years. Tight ends, and we didn't draft anybody, obviously. We didn't get Brock Wright from the Lions because they matched his offer. So tight end's definitely probably one of the weakest spots. If George Kittle goes down at any time throughout this year, it's going to be some tough sledding right there. You might have to throw Juszczyk at tight end, and I don't even know. Like, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. How would you grade this undrafted class so far, having not seen anything about him yet?
I'd probably say a C. Just
I'd
because
say
there's not, many. Usually, I feel like in each undrafted class, there's like one guy or two guys that we're like, damn, like that guy has a good chance of making the roster. But I don't know about any of these dudes. Even the Cody Schrader, it's a good story, but athletically and everything on the slower side, I don't know.
yeah, I don't. This is the first year I'm like, yeah, I don't know if anyone makes it, but
Yeah.
And like we said, there was a couple guys that we wanted that probably would have made it, but they went to different teams. So I'd give it, this one's probably like a C minus to a D,
Yeah.
but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yep. So that wraps up the draft for us. We love watching the draft. It's been a fun draft, been an interesting draft to say the least for the Niners. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Let us know in the comments your guys' thoughts on how the 49ers draft went. Go ahead and drop a grade for the overall class. Let us know if there's anybody you think that's going to surprise people or anybody you think is going to let the team down, really. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
Peace.